Incremental greetings. Have you started to use SuperMemo and you wonder how priorities actually work, especially if the collection is brand new? So, I will cover this. What happens if your collection is so tiny? So here I only have the root element, in this case it's called split. It's the same as you see here, the root. And I just imported one topic, that's it, right? So if I go to my priority queue, so view, priority queue, I only have two elements, which is a concept, which is mandatory, because every collection starts with a root element, and that element, it is a concept. And then one topic. So priorities, I have the absolute maximum and the absolute minimum. First is, oh, that doesn't make sense. Which one is minimum? Oh, wow. Actually, it's 100%. This is the minimum. And 0, it's the maximum. Because usually, the common sense will tell you that the higher the number, the higher the priority, but it's the opposite. Okay, so I have both extremes of the spectrum. So here you have all the colors about all the positions that you have in the priority queue. Now, if you notice, I cannot even toggle this. It's everything or nothing. Why? Because what you see in priorities in percentage, it's just the relative position on the queue. And then between parentheses, you get the actual position. It means it's the first one. And here, it will be the second one. I can only choose two positions because I only have two elements in my collection and therefore in my priority queue. Okay, so now let's say that I split this. So what happens is that I created more elements in my collection. So now if I go to view and priority queue, now I have 12. And more or less every step, every jump into priority percentage, it will be the same as 100 over 12. So about 9%. 80, 27, 29, and some decimals. Makes sense. But what if I want to be this very high priority? So I select and I do a subset. Now I have the subset of this browser. And I want to set priorities. And I want from 0 to 10%. I will this very high. I cannot do that. It says step, it's 0. Because in percentage, that will mean first and second position. I only have two positions inside the 10% of the priority queue, but I have 6 elements. So the size of my collection is the limitation. So instead of using the percentage at the beginning, you will notice more the position. It's okay, I want to be first and sixth because I have just 6. And now I can do it. But wow, just a 6th position means the 45 percentile, almost half of my collection. But oh wow, the priorities are huge. Every single one is in a different color. That means it's in a different range, right? It's not that important, and so on. What's the solution? Well, there's no solution in the sense that there's no issue to begin with. That is because it's just a representation of the position. You have just 6 elements or 12 in your collection. That's about it. You cannot have 5 or 6 between 0 and 10 and the rest at 90% because you want that color. Because it is just a position, relative position on your collection. Everything. Let me show the entire collection now. Here it is. So you can just rearrange the order of these. But this represents first, second, third, and so on. It doesn't represent this number. This number is because your collection will keep growing. So let's say this is the 3rd element in my priority queue. But if I import or I create extracts or whatever, I generate more elements in my collection, this will change. So the position will be number 3, but the percentage would be different. Let's do that. So let me go to the first one, that is the highest. And let me do some dummy extracts. Now look at that. The extract becomes the first element. That is because usually it's a higher priority. Remember, 0% is the highest. And it was the 3rd. That means that if it's higher priority, it could only be first or second. There are no more places left in the priority queue in this collection because it's so tiny, right? So in this case, it becomes the very first, and the other extract, the second. That means most likely that if I do a third extract, it will become the third. Let's see. Yep, it becomes the third. And now the parent that was the third, now it's the fourth. So now it's a different percentage. Does that mean I have decreased the priority? No, the priority is still the same. What changed is the relative position within the collection.